and there's the long intro. Bonjour. D'accord. Je suis très désolé parce que mon français est très mal. Parce que je suis anglais. Maintenant, je parle anglais. Oh. Arrête. Ton nom. James Secondé. James Secondé. Et tu pas parler français. D'accord. Please do not. Thank you for trying to do this accent, but the voice. But no, do not ruin the French any longer. What are you talking about? Tell the people. Yes, that's right. I should probably tell the people what I'm talking about. So, yeah, hello, everybody. Here, I am James Second in English, or Secondé. If you want to find out how I'm related to the current House of Bourbon and being the next King of France, then you can ask me about that later. Anyway, here's my stuff. I am on Blue Sky and Mastodon, the PHP Mastodon, and LinkedIn, and GitHub. Don't go to GitHub, because then you will see awful code. And I work at Vonage. Does anyone know who has anyone heard of Vonage? Not including my employee over there that works for me. Cool. Okay, some of you, if you want to find out what we do, we'll still be around the booth, or maybe some beers afterwards. Right. What am I going to speak about? Well, hear ye. I am also James Second, a senior developer preacher, and it was on the 18th of September 2025 in Lille. James Second approached the stage, and thus he spake about Hal and Hatios, and everyone was confused. So I'm here to unconfuse it. So that's good, isn't it? Hey, clicker. Why do you think it's black? It's not black. There we go. Let's do an outline of what we're going to do. Okay, so what is Hal? Because I have to assume that you don't know. Some of you will, some of you won't. And the same is, what is Hatios? Which I love. It's such a stupid thing that they... Anyway, we'll get on to that. Why is it important? Why should I use it? What was Aston Villa's transfer? Why was it so rubbish? And importantly, this is a conference for API platform. Can I API platform it? That's a bit of a mouthful. Okay, so we start off, as I usually do, with a story. One day. Oh, no, I've gone completely ahead of myself. What I did is I asked my team to provide pictures that I could put into the slide deck, and they'd do it without telling me what I was going to see. So when I see things that I like, I'm like here's some API design that I like, and they're going to give me some pictures, and I don't know really what to expect. I've just seen the first one, which said PHP. That's true. I like PHP, and... roll the dice. What's this? Oh, yes, the film Jurassic Park. Yes, I do. So Jurassic Park inspired me to become a developer because of Dennis Nedry doing whatever he was sort of doing in Java, which was on an IRIX machine, but also a Mac for some reason on a connection machine. And I was like, I want to be a software developer. It probably shouldn't be a good inspiration, because that means I wanted to be a software developer to break a park so that dinosaurs come out and eat people. Maybe that makes me bad. I don't know. Right. So I'll be using those illustrations. So anyway, back to the story. So the story is, one day, as a junior developer, we've all done it. Who's deleted production? Me. I've done that. I see you. Honest people. The rest of you, liars. One day, I work for a Shopify agency, and I haven't worked with Shopify before, and I send a request, and it goes, here is the response. And I'm like... Links, href, links. And I'm there with my CTO, who equally doesn't know what he's doing either. And he's like, whoa, this thing, what is going on? Like links and embedded and href. What is this arbitrary nonsense that you've come up with? Ha ha ha, we don't know any better. We just laugh at you because you're Shopify, as if you don't know, as if like Shopify don't know what they're doing. We know better, don't we? Because we're junior developers. Like, are they stupid or something? And then we also tell other jokes to try and be funny. Like, I don't know, JavaScript bad. I have achieved comedy. Ha 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 ha. Being a junior developer is interesting because you're not self-aware, are you? There's a reason why these things exist. And they exist because we find out later it's a standard. And the standard is called HAL. I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It comes from I was going to say an RFC, it's not an RFC, a draft that was written in 2012. It's not really approved by anything, so it's like just there. And it stands for, that's its own description is, the JSON Hypertext Application Language is a standard which establishes conventions for expressing hyperlinks with JSON. And yes, that's what it does. Okay. What does that mean? Okay, what does that mean? Here's how it looks. So you have in your responses you have a resource, and then this is mandatory. You have a field called links, and then you have something called self and something called href, and that is a reference back to itself. Everything must contain that as part of the standard. And then you have this, which is embedded. And embedded means you have more things, such as a collection, or you have relations. I assume that some of you, I can't assume it all the time, but most of you probably use API platform, have experimented with it. There are obviously lots and lots of ways of entities and handling embedded data within it. Okay, that's what it looks like. So, for instance, this is not without HAL, so ID123, widget. Price. And with HAL, it looks like this. You now have two bonus examples in there. You have a link to itself, and then you have, if you want to get a collection of these things, here is the other part. How many people have seen this kind of in practice? It's about maybe half. So this is an explanation of, and really the justification and why it happens in this kind of way. Now, it's a standard. I love standards, so team, where are my team? My team are there. They're not there. I'm imagining things again. Crack on, Jim. I love standards as much as my home city of Birmingham. I like that. That's true. I've come from Birmingham on the train yesterday. Yes. So, and what else have we got? Oh, okay. The video game Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo. It's very, very good. You should play it. If you've got Steam Deck or something like that, it's the best experience ever. Chrono Trigger. Good stories. What is important to note is, I've mentioned Hateos and HAL. HAL is not Hateos, and it's a question that happens a lot. The reason why that I am explaining this is because I work at Vonage, and at Vonage we have APIs, so we have to be best in class in API design, so we have to know what these things are and why they're different. So they're heavily related. If you actually, I think Roy Fielding in 2000, the guy that defined REST, I think Hateos was kind of added as like a sort of a afterthought of HAL, so it's never really clearly defined, but interesting enough with API platform, Hateos is probably more important than the HAL element of it. So if we've done HAL, you've seen how that's formatted. What is Hateos? It is hypermedia as the engine of application state, and I've put it into ChatGPT to do some graphics and said, make it look 90s and futuristic. What does that mean? So the difference is HAL is a format and Hateos is a concept. Application state is very different for how something is formatted. So for instance, to separate the two in practice, HAL means make sure that the links look like links and href and stuff like that. And Hateos is application state. So it's your business logic. So your business logic means that in the response, you give me the link that means that I can delete the Manchester United entity because I want to get rid of it. That's the difference. I love concepts. What do I love concepts as much as team? What are you going to, I'm slightly scared. Oh, the Balti curry. The Balti curry, invented in Birmingham. I do like the Balti curry. That is true. What else? Cheese in France. Okay, so what this is Azeitão cheese from Portugal. It's really good. I'm sorry. I like your cheeses, but Azeitão is basically like salty goo that you put on stuff, and it's just absolutely amazing. So go and ask the fromagerie and say, can you get Azeitão cheese? Definitely worth trying. I recommend it. What's going to come next? I have no idea. Oh, because it's a concept. This is important to note that, okay, Hateos is a concept of application state, but it doesn't just apply to HAL. HAL is one way of formatting it. So for regular users of API platform, as you'll probably be aware of this, it means that it applies also to JSON LD, which is the rendering, the default rendering engine for API platform. And that means that it also applies to Hydra. But really to address the question of like, okay, you've explained what Hateos is and you've explained what HAL is. What is it? What's important about this? And this is about standards. Automatic API discovery is the main thing. And if anyone, i.e. everyone that was here was at Fabian's keynote this morning about LLMs, I've actually adjusted a slide about this, is that automated API discovery is now becoming more important than ever. So you're giving machines a way to actually automate things, and then as a result, is he going to tell me to stop now? I thought he was going to, a couple of conferences, they told me to stop moving around. I'm not moving too much, am I? Good. I like running around stage. And so from there, you have tooling. You have a whole tool chain system, and it runs on links, embedded, etc., etc. That's what the definition is. So why is it important? Time, and I've done this in many talks before, the concept of time as a developer is basically a loop. And I can illustrate this in a highbrow way, which is the Wheel of Time books by Robert Jordan. It has nothing in concept with in relation to this, but I decided to put it there anyway. But I don't know, you've probably got some gamers, so I don't know, the Reapers in the Mass Effect series of games. Time becomes a loop, and therefore we must learn from it. What this illustrates from a previous talk is, if you don't learn about concepts of the past, such as Hateos and HAL, where people are already saying this is old and no one uses it anymore, they don't learn. And if you don't learn, you end up with this. And this is GraphQL. Yeah, sure, it's one way of doing it, but suddenly I'm like, okay, as a developer, I now have to stitch together 200 lines of code in order to get back clip art and sausages and breakfast and whatever it is that's on the screen. Right, and this is the good way. This is the modern way of doing this, is all of this stuff. No, we haven't. It means you haven't learned it. Why did you do this? Why did you do this person I can't name for legal reasons who wears a hoodie and works at a company that we all know? And the answer is I didn't like doing Hateos links. Okay, fine. You don't like Hateos links. This is the result. This is good for some certain cases, but remember, as always, there's never a right answer because it depends. Right. So preconceptions, this is what I'm here to teach you today. Preconceptions of things that have happened in the past can limit your knowledge as a developer. If you are just told that HAL and Hateos is old and no one uses it anymore, then you won't learn why they structured things in the first place like that previously, and now we ended up with some sort of like thing where you're like, this GraphQL is really quite difficult to kind of implement. So you limit yourself, and what this ends up looking like is like history repeating, like the Reapers, like the Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time does apply to that. So regardless of whether you agree with the architecture, we all argue with each other as developers all the time. If you forget history, you haven't learned from it. And this is happening outside of tech. This is happening in the United Kingdom because, for instance, boy band curtains are back. People have this hairstyle. Why do they have this hairstyle? There's other things. The mullet is back. Everyone has mullets. Why does everyone have mullets? Okay, interesting. I mean, it's your choice. I'm scanning and I can't find anyone, but someone is going to tell me, I've got a mullet and thanks for that. I found that really offensive. Sorry about that. So if this is what it looks like from Reddit, and I found this maybe a week ago. I can't read it out to you and I had to block it out. But it's just like this quote is the whole like me starting this conference talk where I'm like, lol, what's this links thing? Why can't I just have the data right there? Sure, that's a very nice, simple question. What is all this Hateos stuff with links and blah, 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 blah? Well, okay, right, so what if I've got a trace log database, it's 150 fields, it's an enum, kind of every single time you have to add another field, there's an enum thing, and it has to rewrite the entire table structure with the migrations, and there's 650 million records. So what? Well, now what? So right, you want the data right there, it's there. Or I could paginate it. What, 650 million records? How are you going to do that? Don't fall into this trap, because if you say this on the internet, and I don't know if you know when you say things on the internet, people read it. Don't do that because it makes you look stupid. Don't do that. I don't like looking stupid. But like everything, it can go wrong, right? Embedded everywhere. Remember that embedded means that there are other resources embedded in there. And when I say where it can go wrong, some people will have encountered HAL and HACIOS partly implemented. So, for instance, there are missing actions. You have to tell people what your API can do. If you don't, there's no point in it. Half implementation, or a link that's busted, or you don't look after it, meh. Or, in most cases, it depends, you didn't need HACIOS at all because it's really simple and it's for the front end. So that's the reason why you hate HACIOS, is because there was no need for it whatsoever. I come from a product perspective with millions and millions of requests per second. So my viewpoint is kind of different on this. Why? Why should I use it? So, one of the things I experienced when doing an implementation is that for the front end, it's amazing. API platform is genuinely amazing at what it does. Is if you open up all the entities and then you can tinker with it later, shorter, hide fields, etc., and put custom stuff. But this isn't where I'm coming from. I'm coming from this, and this slide will change because of the keynote this morning. Originally, I'm talking about machine-machine discovery, which is very, very important. But LLMs, API discovery for LLMs. It's part of your documentation, effectively. This is why it's important. So I love use cases. Come on then, team, hit me with it. Hit me with it just like I've hit this several times for no reason. Okay, the band Justice, the electro duo Justice. Yeah, okay. Did I choose that because I'm in France? Yes, I did. Old school MacOS. So I don't know if you know this, but if you go to infinitemac.com, you have, using WASM, someone has created an entire Mac system where you can just boot up version macOS 9.5 into like your browser window, and it's complete with games and all sorts and stuff. And you're like, oh yeah, and this reminds me of the good old days. I bought my parents, much to their dismay, they bought me a Mac when I was 14 years old, and I proceeded to break it all the time, and it had to be repaired all the time. Anyway, Jim, carry on. Okay. Remember that saying something is old, it doesn't mean anything. First of all, it doesn't mean it's going away, right? jQuery's latest release was in July 2024, and it's still used by about 70% of the internets. It's not good. So if you just go, it's the old thing and I'm not interested in it, I'm afraid at some point as a developer, you're probably going to have to understand it at some point. So it's not going away. And I changed this slide an hour ago for LLMs. Thanks, Fabian. Which actually made it more relevant. So that was good. HACIOS also, we have a little bit of a bonus as PHP developers, because with the request response life cycle, we code as a stateless system, and HACIOS works like that. It's a stateless way of implementation. So next up we have, why was Aston Villa's transfer window so rubbish? Probably not got time for that. See me at the Vonage booth about that. This is the question. Can I API platform it? So, bear in mind, when I did this, I came in like totally blind, on purpose, because effectively I am a developer experience engineer. That's my job. And so I'm like, right, well, coming into this new innovation in PHP, I'm going to look at it, even though it's been around 10 years, okay, now is the time for me to look at it with complete, I don't know anything, so how do I go into it? So, does it implement it? Yes. In inverted commas. The real answer is, at the moment, HAL is easy, and I'll show that to you. HACIOS is a little bit different. And I'll explain the kind of limitations of what the expectations are of why that's the case. So, starting off, my stack, mostly the stuff I do is in Laravel. So I've got Laravel, I've got SQLite. I love the fact I can just chuck a SQLite file in there. But I mean, you can't because you have production developers. So, sorry. And Postgres is like, oh, you're slightly different to MySQL, and I'm very confused now. SQLite, bog standard, there we go, that's easy. I don't really have to worry about much, and I've got a self-hosted thing on my local development environment. So, right, I need data. So I start off, first of all, with, right, I'm gonna create the migration, and my choice is I've got campaigns and I've got one relation because we want to keep this easy. So we've got emails, campaign, emails. So I've seen most of the speakers get confused with left and right. So on the left, create the campaigns. There's a very neat thing in Laravel where no, that's not this slide. Pretend I didn't say that. Didn't say that, Jim. Don't know what you're talking about. We've got campaigns. There's a UUID. There's isActive, which really is just a flag for testing with sort of a put request or a patch request or something like that. Please don't get me to explain the difference between those two, because if I'm on stage, I will forget. And why did I tell you that? I didn't need to tell you that. On the other side is emails. So you have a foreign key constraint. Sure, right, really like pretty straightforward relation stuff. There's nothing kind of fancy going on here. And I need the data. So this is the fancy bit on the left that I was talking about that I really like, is that you've got your closure. And actually, if anyone saw Joe's talk about Laravel Cloud this morning, he did something similar with the database seeder. I don't know, Doctrine's not going to look much different from that, but you have a closure in there so you can create, I've got 45 emails, and then it automatically attaches them to the same campaign. Okay, fairly straightforward. 45 is a number, and so is 105, whatever. Just something, because I'm testing this. Then I've created the models, and in the models, you can see there you've got public function emails. Has many emails, lots of emails, lots of spam to go in the bin that no one's reading. Good, right, fairly sort of obvious structure at this point. Now at this point, this is not a product talk because I don't give product talks, but it might as well be for API Platform, because at this point it blew my head off of what it could do. You probably know this, but I'm reassuring you as an outsider from this of like, oh, right, okay. So the story of the next couple of slides, and there's only about 3 slides, is like, okay, right. I've got campaigns and I've got emails. Okay, fine. Like, really straightforward. So what is this thing? To do it, compose or require. API Platform, Laravel, PHP Artisan, API Platform install, same as Symfony Console, slightly different, etc., etc. Okay, so now it tells me that I've added API resource onto my Eloquent Laravel model. That's all you need to do. That's the docs. The docs are like, that's all you need to do. What do you mean that's all I need to do? Okay, well, right. So you told me to add that on. Okay, fine. And then you go to /API, and then this happens. What? What? What do you mean? What do you mean you just created the API for me? Do you realize that, like my colleague over there is a .NET developer. You lot are PHP developers. What do you mean you've just opened up the API? So my mission is, well, okay, I'm doing this at API Platform Conference. You know all this. I'm taking this outside of PHP and like, do you understand how easy this is to do? That's ridiculous. But then it's not going to be able to handle anything more complicated than that, is it? Well, you could do this. You could add pagination items per page 5. What does that do? What? What? What do you mean you've just automatically paginated everything? Are you serious? It's calculated how many pages, and then in a JSON LD, it's just done all this. This is ridiculous. This is why I said it's an odyssey. You're watching my journey of discovery. You already use it. You've been using it for 10 years. What's this? This is ridiculous. Right, okay, right. Well, we've got this far. Right, let's go back to HAL and HATIOS. This has come out the box, right? So this is JSON LD. Fine. So look, I swear I'm going to smash this thing up. It's like styrofoam. That's probably why I keep on bumping into it. Jim, carry on with the talk. Yes, talk. I love this as much. It's team time. It's team time. What do I? As this goes on, I get slightly more worried. Coq au vin. Yes, okay. I love coq au vin. I love cooking it. That's good. Thanks, team. So where are we with HAL and HATIOS? You've seen that. That wasn't a lesson. the lesson was my reaction to you of how ridiculously powerful it is to start off with. But now I want to get from this kind of LLM enterprise type thing that, say, Vonage does, right? So where it's a million requests type thing. So in the docs, there is something that is quite difficult for me to read, because it does say in the official docs, while we recommend preferring JSON LD when possible, okay, you're basically telling me to use JSON LD, but okay, well, you recommend it, but I don't want to do that. That's not what I'm doing. I'm doing HAL and Hateos. Like, well, I'm doing HAL, right? So, curiously on the lines of, anyone remember when Apple decided on macOS that PHP is not recommended? Don't use PHP. Sorry, you're my operating system. You're not my dad. So I don't really like being told what preference is, but I kind of get it. I know why that's there. So, right, but it is supported. So therefore, right, I go into API platform.yaml. Yes, that's the Laravel configuration. Obviously, you've got the Symfony configuration. JSON LD is there, out of the box, and it tells me, I comment that out, and I add JSON HAL application JSON HAL. Uncommented one line of code and added another line of code in. Okay. Are you serious? What does that do? What? What are you talking about? Why is this now just HAL out of the box? That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. Again, do you understand what power you've got here as PHP developers? That's nuts. Okay, well, so now with forming my entities, I don't have to worry about HAL stuff. It's just there. And then, of course, because you saw in the configuration is you could add them all in as extensions and just go, well, do you want JSON? Do you want JSON LD? It's all there. You could have whatever you want. Have everything. Have XML if you're suicidal. It's amazing. The absolute power of that. It's crazy. But, Hateos. So I love this as much as, okay, go on then. What are you going to hit me with? Oh, okay. Oh, but left field. Avatar: The Last Airbender. The cartoon, not the film. Good. I like that. But this is where the autopilot stops, because now I've done the HAL bit. I say I've done it. What I mean is Kevin's done the HAL bit. I haven't had to do anything. I've just been granted free API. Here are all your free API things. Now I've got to do Hateos, and that's application logic. So application logic, it's not going to know about it unless you specify it. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for something like this makes it Hateos. So you've got, links, self, it does that automatically, but now deactivate. What's that? Because that's not on the entity. And that's a custom Hateos link that says, for some reason, because I'm an idiot, deactivate instead of delete is not delete, because that's not what deactivation means, because it's application logic, and there's loads and loads of tech debt, and take it up with the CTO if you want to know why. It's like the way, so now it's a post request for some reason to API campaigns. That probably should be API campaigns 1, but who knows? Because it's not your code and you're not responsible for it. So, right, okay, so how do I get that in? That's the bit where I said yes, and it depends a bit. So you have a custom class. This is an implementation of it. So you call it Hateos link, and you've got the name, the method, the root, and any parameters that you want to add onto it. The important thing is, as you've seen from API platform, there's the attribute. The attribute is the key thing to all this. So you're adding it as an attribute. And then you have a constructor. Then I am a very humble developer that doesn't really know what they're doing most of the time. So I'm like, okay, well, now I've got to investigate the Symfony normalizer. Okay, bringing in the normalizer interface that gives me the methods I have to implement. And you've got a constructor, and here's the denormalizer, and then you're adding it in the decorator pattern. I'll be honest with you, API Platform Conference, I hate the decorator pattern. I can't stand it. I don't know what's going on. What decorator is it? I don't know what it's doing. And then, oh, I don't know. And suddenly monads, they're not related at all in any way. I just hate monads. So then we've got this on the normalizer. So you've got get Hateos link. Now, this is where the implementation is not necessarily where I want it to be, because it's using reflection. Most of the time I use reflection is like, hello, here is a private class and I'm going to muck it all up for my testing library, which I can't stand doing, but it's like a necessary evil. So it then gets the reflection class, it pulls it out and then pulls the attributes that have been tagged from API platform onto it. So that implementation is a bit hairy, but to the end user, the developer, you end up with this. Now, this is cool because you've just got a campaign and then you add Hateos link. So I don't know, programmatically, this would be quite difficult because then you'd have to pull out stuff first and then start extracting what you think, like you'd have to, well, sort of IDs and attributes and things like that. But you have got Hateos link, there's the deactivate post, and then that's the Laravel router, whatever, Symfony router, if you're going to use Symfony for that, campaign deactivate. Okay, I mean, if you want to see the implementation of it from the Symfony perspective, but you have to translate it for the Laravel perspective if you're doing Laravel, most of your Symfony developers anyway, it comes from this blog post, which is the main implementation, which maybe they're here today, I'm not sure. But it was really kind of informative, and that approach to Hateos on someone else's blog is something that really I feel should be in the main kind of docs. But if you already have the impression that no one uses HAL and Hateos, then you wouldn't put it into the docs, be like, no one uses it. But people do use it. Jim uses it, and he's loud, and it doesn't make me right. So I like this, well, okay, this time, team, you need to sit this one out, because I have to be very nuanced with what I feel about this. So I like this as much as the band Coldplay, because Coldplay are a band, aren't they? And they can play their instruments. They can, and the Gwyneth Paltrow man, who's not the whatever it is, he can sing, can't he? But also sometimes it's, I mean, it's music. You can play music, but also, is it amazing? I mean, it's not, c'est pas justice, you know? That's because I like dance music. So, that part of it is, I want kind of things to be simpler because I'm an idiot, basically. And, you know, it does take some charisma to go on stage and say, hello, everybody, I'm Jim, I'm an idiot, and I want things to be simple. But, you know, that's me. Take it or leave it. So, in conclusion, I like to keep my talks kind of like short because it's the end of the day, you want a beer, you don't want to stick around here. I haven't been signaled yet, which is great, so I don't have to go, oh no, I have to hurry up, oh no, what's Jim doing? History repeating and time becoming a loop and things not going away. I said JSON's going away, Cold Fusion went away, but that had to go away. HAL is a standard and it isn't going anywhere. It will still, if you might not implement it, but at some stage you will have to interact with a third-party API that uses it at some point, so it's not going away. Hateos is still needed in correct use cases, and that doesn't matter whether it's HAL or not. It doesn't matter whether you're, I mean, I seem to remember yesterday, it was announced that gRPC is like native out of the box with like FrankenPHP. I'm like, what? What? That's nuts. I mean, all these kind of things, yeah, that's a different kind of way of doing the protocol. But things like JSON-LD and JSON API, I mean, it still needs the concept of Hateos for large-scale applications that do a lot of things that isn't just basic front-end interaction, right? I really mean this from the heart. Like I said, you've probably seen examples and you're like, I don't care about that because I know that I can do that. There is nothing like this outside of the market, and I'm talking about in the Python space, in the Ruby space. There's nothing I've seen like this where you can do one attribute and it just opens up your API. It just doesn't exist. And that's why I've said it's an odyssey. It's nuts, right? And so in terms of rapid app development, we're sort of leading the way in the PHP space, and it's been a long time since we can say that, really, considering that we're at the butt of all jokes still, even though no one understands. I read that blog post with the double hammer. Yeah, well, you're very clever, aren't you? That's not what it's like now. That's not what it's like to put to code in PHP. The normalizing I found quite complex. But the evolution of API platform on its 10th birthday now is extremely important personally to me now because of the work that is happening on it and the innovations, including FrankenPHP, which I know is related but not the same thing. Everyone's support across the PHP ecosystem, so I'm speaking across Symfony, across Laravel, the fact that it brings both of those ecosystems together in something that's so powerful is extremely important in innovation right now. You know, these kind of things started off maybe with things like fibers and the work that React, PHP, and OpenSWL have been doing. Sure, that's really old now, but it's accelerating to a pace where we are doing some quite crazy things. If you pair, for instance, API Platform with a Laravel app that then uses native PHP, which is really something I'm very excited about, we're starting to look like we're kind of ahead of our game, a long way. So there we go, I have preached to the choir. Normally I end with a ChatGPT poem, and I'm not going to do that because you don't want to hear it. And also, I'm noisy, and you probably need to go and have a break. This is a talk that was far less intense than I normally do. So, thank you for listening. Come to the Vonage booth. We're sort of at the end of the conference now, but if you scan that, you can get a coupon code, about 25 euros of credit to experiment with CPaaS, so it's Cloud Platform as a Service. So it's SMS, WhatsApp messaging, two-factor authentication built in. We are now owned by Ericsson, so our latest thing is that we have what is known as network APIs, and they really mean that you can start controlling information that comes out of a mobile device, like triangulating it instead of using GPS satellites. It's kind of nuts, and I said I'm a bit of a simpleton and I don't really understand it, but Ericsson do because they're very clever. So thank you very much for listening to me, and enjoy the closing keynote.